round 25 is truly purely only filling the gaps round, and so I'm not even going to go through with you because you can do that by yourself. I've placed some stitch markers in the 3 front loops here at the beginning and at the end, and you can do the same, which we're going to need for the next round. So in this round it's only 3 stitches, which is single crochet, the HDCBB X and the DCBB. You know all these 3 stitches, and just make sure that you're always working either around those double 2 together stitches or behind them, depending on what the pattern says. So it's really pretty simple, and I'm pretty sure you can do that by yourself. So go on with round 25, and then according to the pattern, and then we'll do round 26 together. I've actually decided to go through round 25 with you because there are a few points that I would like to put your attention to. So we start with 4 single crochet, and then the first stitch is again our HDCBB. So we go through the top loops and then through the skipped loops. So you're familiar with that, and that's easy enough. Then you can see that there are the 2 single crochet, and we work into those. Now the next is a DCBB, the next stitch, and we're going to work behind. You see this stitch here? We have made this special stitch, and then we have worked into it in the same round. So we just need to be mindful to work into the skipped loops behind this. It's kind of a double stitch even, and then the trick is to find the next stitch, not to skip one and not to work in the wrong one. So after we worked behind this one, we have to make 2 single crochet. So if that's easier, you can count back. You can see it pretty clearly there. So this is those 2. But you know that you're going to work around or behind this stitch next, so you just count back to be sure that you're going to find the next stitch to work into. So we had the HDCBB X and then the DCBB, and then now we're going to work a HDCBB again. So we're going through those top loops there and through the skipped loops as well. We'll make our HDC and then 1 single crochet, which is just before this DCBB here. DCBB. Actually, we'll make 3 single crochet. So the first of those 3 is just before that cluster. And the DCBB we made behind that cluster. Then again, DCBB, and look, that's going to be that double stitch again. So we worked a special stitch, and then we worked into the top loops of that special stitch. So we just find those 3 front loops so that we can make sure that we work into the correct stitches. And then it's a little bit fiddly again, but we make 2 single crochet, so we just make sure that we find the first. And then another DCBB. And then 2 more single crochet. Again, make sure you find the first. Another DCBB. 2 single. And then a DCBB behind that middle stitch there, the treble 0 minus 3. And then we're starting our repeat with those 2 stitches here, and then the HDCBB, 2 single, DCBB, and that's behind that double stitch. When I say double stitch, that's twice worked into, and 2 single. Make sure to find the first because it's fiddly there. A HDCBB, 3 single. The first is just before the DC BB behind that cluster, and then the rest is all DC BBs behind those stitches and filling the single crochet in between. And then at the end, where we are in a moment, we're going to work 4 single crochet just like we did in the beginning. And that's it for the run. So you see, it is pretty easy, as I promised, but it's just a matter of being aware of those stitches between the DC BBs and the HEC BBs, that we are counting correctly. So that's the most important part there. So now when you've done all the other sides all the way around, then I will see you for round 26 then. Okay, round 26. That's one where you really want to pay attention again, especially for stitch placement. Okay, we start pretty easy with a 2 treble cluster. And we're going to work that in the stitch that is plus 2 minus 3. Which means 0, 1, 2, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So we're going to work into this front loop and we'll make a treble cluster. So we're starting a treble without finishing it. And then go through all the legs. We skip the stitch behind this treble cluster and then we make 3 single crochet. Now we're going to work back in the same front loop and again with a treble cluster, a 2 treble cluster. So back in the same front loop and also again 2 clusters together. Okay, and then we skip the stitch behind this cluster and we work a single crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to work around this stitch here with a front post treble minus 1, minus 2. So there. Skip the stitch behind, 1 single crochet in the next, and 2 more, so 3 single crochet. Then we work backwards with a front post treble minus 2, minus 2. So back minus 2, minus 2 means we go back from here 0, minus 1, minus 2, and then from here minus 1, minus 2. So that's this stitch. We're working around this stitch there. Front post. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next. Now we're going to work around the second leg only of the stitch, that is 1 behind and 2 rounds below. 1 behind and 2 rounds below. This is our 2 together stitch, the funny one, where we worked backwards, straight back. And we're going to work around this stitch here, which is the stitch 2. And not only that, we're going to work it from the opposite side as well. So, going around this stitch, I'm just going to grab the stitch and work from the opposite side. Skip 1 stitch and a single crochet in the next, and this one should just be above the DC, above this cluster. Now we're going forward again with 1 stitch and 2 down. We're going to work around this stitch here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, skip one stitch and then single crochet in the next. And again we're going to work forward with a front post treble. We go 2 ahead and 2 down, and we're going to work, so that would be this stitch, but we're not working like that. Again, we're going to work only around the second leg, which is there. So like that. Skip one stitch behind, and again 3 single crochet. Oops, 3 single crochet. And we're working forward, 1 stitch forward and 2 down with a front post treble. So we go around this DC here, and we work this again from the opposite side. 0, 1, minus 1, minus 2, and we work from the opposite side. So like this. Skip one stitch, single crochet in the next. And here we are. We're going to work a 2 treble cluster again, but this time in the top loops of this treble. So we go ahead 2 and down 2, and we work in the top loops, not in a front loop. Oops, almost closed it already. A 2 treble cluster. And then 3 single. I did not close this cluster with the chain 1 because we've only got 2 stitches, and the same here. If you want to do that, you can certainly close that cluster with a chain 1, just to let you know. And now we're going back in the same top loops here, and again also with a 2 treble cluster. Well, actually, okay, like that. Okay, and we skip one stitch, and 1 single crochet in the next, and then we're starting our repeat from here, which means we are working a front post treble around this treble here. Then I skip one stitch and 3 single. Now we're working a front post treble around this stitch. 2 back and 2 down. The other one's 1 back and 2 down. Skip one stitch, single crochet in the next. A front post treble from the opposite side around leg 2 only of that 2 together stitch there. Oops, I said from the opposite side. So going like that. I find it really helps to almost turn your work a little bit, as you noticed. And so, where was I? I'm just here. Okay, and a single crochet in the next stitch. Now front post treble around this stitch here, which is 1 ahead and 2 down, and then a single crochet in the next, a front post treble, 2 ahead and 2 down around the second leg only. So this is our complete stitch, but we only work around the second leg. Skip 1 stitch, 3 single crochet. And then a front post treble, 1 ahead, 2 down from the opposite side again around this DC here. This double crochet from 2 rounds down. Then skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next, and a 2 treble cluster. In the front loop of the stitch 2 ahead and 3 rounds down. Skip 1 stitch. Oops. Skip this stitch, and here's the next. 3 single crochet. And then again a cluster in the same front loop as before. Again 2 treble cluster. So 2 trebles work together. And then we skip the last stitch because that's behind this special stitch, and we just work in the corner. So that's round 26. You just repeat that on the other 3 sides. Close your round with a slip stitch, and we'll be together for round 27. Round 27 is again mainly gap filling, but we're also connecting a few stitches. So let's go together and let's go slow. We start with a single crochet and then a front post HDC. So we're going to work around this cluster here. Then be sure to find the correct next stitch. There are 3 stitches. Work a single crochet, then in the back loop only, and another single crochet, and then 1 more front post HDC. So we just work around the stitch below. A single crochet in the next, and then a HDC BB. We go through the top loops of the next stitch and the front loops of the skipped stitch, and adjusting the height of the HDC. Then 1 single crochet again. And now a 2 together stitch. And the first leg is a front post treble leg. We're going to work it around the stitch 2 behind and 1 below, which is this one. The second leg is also a treble leg, but we're going to work it in the top loops of the stitch 3 below. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3. So here are the top loops of that stitch. That's the stitch where we worked around, and we also worked into those top loops before with this stitch here. So same top loops. And then together we skip 1 stitch behind, single crochet, and then, oops, I did not properly skip 1 stitch. 1 single crochet, and then the HDC BB again, working in the top loops and the skipped loops of the stitch below. A single crochet, another HDC BB, and then another single crochet, and this one should be just on top or in the above this cluster and the other single crochets above, so just between here. HDCBB, single crochet, another HDCBB, and again a single crochet. Now we're working the partner stitch to this one, where we're going down with a treble leg into the top loops here of the two together stitch. There. With the first leg, and the second leg is a treble leg that will be worked around this stitch, but from the opposite side. So that would be 2 ahead and 1 down. Then we skip 1 stitch behind this special stitch, and then a DCBB, double crochet behind and below, a single crochet, and then a front post half double crochet again, a single crochet, back loop, single, and then another front post HDC. Then we've got our repeat, so we're starting again. A HDCBB, single crochet, a 2 together stitch where the first leg is a front post treble minus 2 minus 1. The second leg is worked in the top loops of the stitch 3 rounds below, and you see that we've already worked into that stitch. There we go, and then together skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, a HDCBB. I've got a few of those now, of those repeats, HDCBB, or X, and then single crochet, then second time single crochet, and that's again in the middle here above that cluster. Again, HDCBBX, single, and 1 more. And a single. And now we're going to work down, 3 rounds down, with a treble in the top loops of this stitch here. Let me grab that again, so that looks better. And the second leg is going to be worked from left, from the opposite side. Left for right-handers, right for left-handers. And it's also a treble leg. Then we bring them together. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, DCBB, a double crochet behind and below, single crochet, front post HDC, single, back loop, single, another front post HDC, and we finish with a single crochet. So, as I said, lots of closing gaps. That's pretty easy, which means we won't repeat it on the next side together, but you can do it. You just go back and repeat this one here, and then close with a slip stitch into the first single crochet of that starting corner, And that will conclude your round 27, and then we continue together with round 28. So round 28 is one where we need to pay attention to the stitches that we're making, but we are getting close. We start with 4 single crochet and then a 4 DC cluster, which we make in the front loop, that is just between those two clusters. Then 5 single crochet, a HDC BBX, go through the top loops and the skip loops, 1 single crochet, a front post treble -2 -1. We are going to work not around this stitch, but only around the first leg. Oops, like that. Then we make 1 single crochet, and now we've got a 3 together stitch, and let's just pay attention where we're going to place our legs. The first leg is a treble leg. We're going to place it back into the top loops of the stitch we just made in this round. So we go 2 stitches back. The second leg is a front post treble leg, and we're going to work it around this stitch here. The third leg is also a front post treble leg, and we work around this stitch but from the opposite side. So just like that, working from the opposite side, and then all together. And then we skip 1 stitch and work a single crochet in the next, which is the one above the cluster again. The next stitch is a 2 together leg, where the first leg is a front post double crochet worked around the stitch 2 rounds below, which is this one. The second leg is a front post treble leg, which we're going to work around this stitch here. That's 2 ahead and 2 down. Then we skip the stitch behind and work a single crochet in the next. And now we've got a stitch where we're going to work in the top loops again, and we're going to work back 2 stitches, and that's the top loops of the 2 together stitch we just made 2 stitches ago, with a treble leg, with a half treble leg, which means we're going to yarn over twice, but we only work through 1 set of loops, of 2 loops. And the second leg is a treble leg, which we're going to work around this stitch here, which is the second leg. So this is the complete stitch, and we're only going to work around leg 2 of that stitch, and we're going to work it from the opposite side. And now we still have this yarn over on the hook from the front post half treble, for the front post half treble. We're just going to work through all loops on the hook. Skip one stitch, single crochet in the next, and then a HTC BB going through the top loops and the skipped loops. Then we've got 5 single crochet, which should bring you just before the stitch where there's a single crochet in back loop, in which we are going to work a 4DC cluster again. So 4DC, go through and close with a chain 1. 5 single crochet again, and then we're going to repeat what we did on the first half. So I've got 3, 4, 5 single crochet. So let's start. A HTC BB. HTC BBX. So, and then 1 single crochet. And now we're going back with a front post treble to work around leg 2 only of the stitch that is 2 behind and 1 round down. Skip 1 stitch and 1 single crochet. Now our 3 together stitch. The first leg is going back in the top loops of the stitch we just made in this round here. The second leg is a front post treble leg, which is worked around this stitch here. And the third leg is going to be worked from the opposite side around this stitch. And then all together. We skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next, which is above the cluster. Now a 2 together stitch, where the first leg is a DC leg, worked around the stitch here. And the second leg is a front post treble leg, and we go around this stitch. That's 2 ahead and 2 down. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next. And then we are making again a funny stitch where the first leg is a half treble, which means we yarn over twice, but we only work through the first 2. And we go back 2 stitches and work in the top loops of the stitch we just made. Oh, sorry, keep this there, work only through 2. Now we're working a front post treble leg from the opposite side, and we'll go around this leg here, which is the second leg of the stitch that is 0, 1, 2 ahead. Only around the second leg with a front post treble, and now we bring that all together. Skip one stitch, 1 single crochet, and then a HTC BB. Five single crochet, and again a cluster stitch made from 4 double crochet. together, skip 1 stitch, and then 4 single crochet at the end of the side. And that's it so far for round 28, for one side at least. So all you have to do is to repeat it on the other 3 sides and then close the round with a slip stitch. And we do some cleaning up in round 29, and that's it then. Now before we start with round 29, I highly recommend to use some stitch markers, and we'll see why in a moment when we start. So I recommend to place a stitch marker in the single crochet. Just try to grab all of those. In the single crochet between the 3 together leg there and the stitch where we work backwards into the top loops. There is a single crochet in between, and we place a stitch marker there because it'll be easier to find that stitch later on. And also between that 2 together stitch of the other leaf there and the stitch where we work back. So it's always when we work back into that stitch that we place a stitch marker in between. And we also do that on the second half because this is just the same as this half, repeated. So again, place a stitch marker between the 3 together leg and the stitch where we worked back with the first leg of that 3 together leg actually. And in the single crochet between the 2 together stitch and the top loop of, or the stitch we worked in with the first leg of that 2 together stitch. So there's a single crochet in between those stitches and we place a stitch marker in there. There are only a few points that I would like to bring your attention to in this round. Other than that, it is quite easy, and it's more or less a cleaning up round now because we've completed our leaves. So after the corner we start with 5 single crochet. Pretty easy, so far so good. And also DCBB, you're familiar with that. That's easily done. And then 7 single crochet. Now we work a HDCBB where we go into the top loops, and you notice that these are the top loops of the stitch where we work backwards. So they may look a little bit tangled, but it's those top loops and the top loops of the skipped stitch below. And we just work our HDC around those loops. And now maybe you can see why we placed the stitch marker, because otherwise this single crochet is a little bit difficult to find. Now I can take it out. So that's all good. We work a front post HDC around all 3 legs of this 3 together stitch. And the single crochet in the next. We have again a front post HDC, and you may be tempted to work around these 3, but we only work around those 2 stitches, around this stitch, which is a 2 together stitch. So those 2 legs of that 1 stitch there. And then a single crochet in the next, which is the one that we marked again, and that's between the 2 together stitch, or those two together stitches, and then a HDC BB into that stitch again, and then 7 single, Now we're starting our repeat, the repeat of this half with a DCBB, and then again 7 single, then a HDCBB, and that will be in the top loops of the stitch where we already worked back into, and the top loops of the skip stitch. And work our HDC around, and then a single crochet in the stitch with a stitch marker, which is between those two special stitches. And front post HDC around all 3 legs of that 3 together stitch. Single crochet in the next, and again a front post HDC, and this time we work around those 2 legs of the next stitch, and then we work into this single crochet that we marked with the stitch marker, and then into the top loops of the next stitch and the stitch below with the HDC BB. And from here on it's pretty easy and straightforward, just 7 single crochet, and a DC BB, and 5 single crochets to the end of the side. Okay, so that's that. Now if you want to end your square, for example with the same color as you used for your inside square, if you want to end a square border with the same color as you used for the inside square, then instead of using a slip stitch to close around, you can cut your yarn and then use an invisible join. If you do that, then join the other color in a different corner than this, otherwise you get a bit of bulk from weaving in the ends all at the same place. I'm going to continue with the same color, so that's all good. I will be continue to use that blue. So now all you have to do is to choose how you want to finish, then do that, and we'll be together for round 30. Okay, so now our final round. I'm switching to the other color again, as I mentioned before. And to make things a little bit easier even, I'm actually going to also switch to a smaller hook. So that way, when I'm working in the 3rd loops, then it's super easy. Not as quick as in working through both loops or through the back loop only or something like that, but comfy enough. And you notice, especially when you've got a HDCBB or a DCBB, then the 3rd loop is always quite easy to work into. So that's nice. So, as you can see, there is nothing else to do other than working single crochet in 3rd loops, and I'm not going to do that with you all the way across because it is so easy. So that means that we are at the end of this border, and I hope you enjoy it. As I said, you can add this border to any square that ends on a stitch count of 30 9 stitches plus the corners, not the corner stitches, that's included in the 39, just the corner spaces, or however you want to work that corner then. And there, and it's of course compatible with each and every one of the wrapped in jammy squares. So whether you want to work it around a square from season 1 or from season 2, whether the black sheep crochet squares or the ones from our beautiful contributor Veronica Godolova, you can add this border, this Scotland border here, to any of those squares. Or you try one of our special borders, which are specifically designed to match the theme and to give some continuation with the basic idea, with the background for each square. So for example, for the stag, there is a stag border. For the dragonfly square, there is a dragonfly border, and so on. And for the Scottish cross, there is even not only one, but 2 border options, and you can combine that with many different, or in many different ways. But that's part of the Scottish cross border. I need to mention that this Scotland border here and Veronica's plants and herbs border, they are part of the Wrapped in Jamie Cull, and they are available for free. So there is a free website, and there's also the option to purchase a pattern PDF in the shop. And the special borders that I designed, they are not part of the Wrapped in Jamie Cull. They are extra, they are an add-on, so to speak. So, and just like that, by talking away, I'm almost at the end of this side. Look at that. Wasn't that bad, was it? Okay, now. So, thank you for joining me on this border journey here. Thank you for watching the tutorial. If you liked it, then please subscribe. And if you press that bell on the side, or beside the subscribe button, you will automatically be notified when I'm uploading a new video tutorial, whether that's one for the squares, another border, or for any of those tutorials that are available in this channel. So yeah, give me a like, let me know how you liked it. If these videos are useful, I'm always looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thanks for being on this journey with me, and take good care of yourself. I'll see you in another video tutorial. Bye.